Yeah, that's good. All right, now direct from Standing Rock, Veterans Service Corps.
Yeah.
Hello everyone, my name is Chris Dusing. I'm a new member of Veterans for Peace and very happy to be here at the convention. This is my first convention. But I am also the volunteer president of Veterans Service Corps. And if you haven't never heard of us, you're in good company. A lot of other people haven't. We are quite simply the evolution of the Veterans Stand for Standing Rock movement of November and December 2016. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, just for some background, my perspective on my participation in the mass mobilization to quickly deploy several thousand veterans and civilian allies to the Oceti-Sakowin camp in Cannibal, North Dakota, and then a little bit about how our organization came to be, what we've been doing since, and how it both is and is not a good representation of what it takes for climate mobilization. So first, a little bit about me. I'm a 1997 graduate of Virginia Tech. I have a major in history and a minor in leadership studies. Took the ROTC route because I did not want to enlist out of high school. I figured I'd rather go in as a second lieutenant than as a private. It's a good call on my part. I was able to get my choice of duty assignments, and I went to got stationed in Germany. Actually, in about 15 years later, and Dan Saint sitting there in the back room, same post, same barracks, same building,
same office,
a little bit of time. And just recently those buildings were torn down, so that's a little bit sad. But since it was the 90s and a lot of people have forgotten about what the United States military was doing in the Clinton years, I got my first experience in the Army as an infantry officer cleaning up the genocide that had been going on in the Balkan states. That had a tremendous impact on me, and that actually leads to one of the reasons why it was so important for me to go to Standing Rock, because I was seeing a lot of the same issues going on as far as cultural genocide, if not, overt mass graves and killings. I decided that the year 2000 would be a good time for me to transition into the National Guard so I could finish up my 20 years as being fat, drunk, and happy. That was September 2000. Come November of 2000, I was right back on active duty in uniform again as a response to the 9/11 attacks. I helped stand up the National Guard security mission in airports across the country. You guys remember that? And I'll tell you right now, while those guys had rifles, not a single one of them had a round of ammunition because it was too damn dangerous. It was too damn dangerous to give those guys ammunition. Shortly after that, I found I was in command of a rifle company and deployed to beautiful sunny Guantanamo Bay, Cuba in December of 2002. So I was literally guarding the interrogators, and I was there when the lie and the justification to invade Iraq was fabricated. I watched it happen, and at that point the Army absolutely broke my heart, and I did not want to continue serving in uniform anymore. After that, I resigned my commission and moved from Richmond, Virginia to Charlotte, North Carolina, where I kind of meandered around having various jobs in retail sales until 2013, when I had a dramatic downturn in my personal health, fell through the social safety net and into unemployment or retirement. And since then, I've been living on my veteran's pension with no purpose, just waiting for the end to come. In last year, like many other people, I started hearing about what was going on in Standing Rock. Very vividly, I remember how outraged I was with the images of the attack dogs and the private security going after American citizens. And I would like to point out that I'm sure a lot of you people saw that, but none of us saw that on any mainstream media.
Yeah, right.
None of us saw it on any of the cable news networks, any of the broadcast networks, any of the mainstream papers. It was all independent media, on social media. That's where that news was coming. What you did see on mainstream media were advertisements for oil and gas companies that we don't buy from directly. We saw advertisements from defense contractors that we don't buy from directly. But why are we seeing those advertisements? Because they're paying for positive stories and coverage. I had my own personal experience with as they're properly called, less lethal munitions. The media likes to call them non-lethal, but in all of the training that I did in the military with those, most of it was, this is a non-lethal round, this is how you kill someone with it. I was in the infantry. That was our job. To close with and destroy the enemy. And the big thing that galvanized what most of us felt the call to come out there was the images of the water cannons being sprayed on the peaceful water protectors in temperatures below 26 degrees Fahrenheit. So there was a call to action. Not trying to brag on myself, but I was personally asked by one of the co-founders of the Veterans Stand for Standing Rock movement, Wes Clark Jr., on Twitter to go to Standing Rock. And I was like, you know what, I'd love to, but I'm poor. Maybe we should do a fundraiser. So when I signed up, there were 3 of us going. And when that first GoFundMe passed $500, I had a plane ticket, and I was like, well, there are 3 of us. What I had no idea as I volunteered to lead the operational aspect of the mission of how much attention it would get, how many volunteers would come, how it would motivate and unite people to come together. Had no idea. Very early in, when we had our sign-up roster, I was on group calls screaming that we had to cap the number because we were already approaching 2,000 people, and there was no way that we were prepared to be able to handle 500 people on the ground, much less 2,000. And while there have been many different estimates on how many people actually showed up, my best guess is somewhere around 8,000. 8,000 veterans and civilian volunteers and journalists were there in Standing Rock in that first week. So as you can imagine, being not an organization and just a loose affiliation of people who didn't know each other and never worked together before, we made a lot of mistakes. We made a lot of mistakes. But be that as it may, still we had published an operations order, and we had decided that on at 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. 1400 local time on the 4th of December, that we were going to hold a muster of the veterans, and from there we were going to march across the blockade of the bridge on 1806 and to the drill pad. And on a Sunday afternoon, while we were mustering in a frozen field outside of Cannonball, North Dakota, the Army Corps of Engineers and the President of the United States got up, held a press conference, and announced that they were denying the easement for the horizontal drilling underneath the Missouri River until an environmental impact study could be completed in full.
Yes!
On a Sunday. There was a great feeling of elation that came over the camp, a great feeling of celebration. Oceti Sakowin there that day was a beautiful and harmonious place to be. With how many thousands of people were in there, the drums, tears of joy, the songs, the camaraderie. It was truly something beautiful to behold. And unfortunately, the next day, a massive blizzard came rolling through. And we quickly went from celebration to survival as the high winds were blowing down tents, people were getting stuck, and we had disorganized groups of, large groups of veterans all over the place with no clear communications with the central leadership and in a leadership and communications vacuum. Now, luckily, a great number of these veterans did exactly what I hoped that they would do. They looked around, they saw what needed to be done, they saw what materials they had on hand, they got together, and they started doing work. Some of my crew that's here with me today, they were instrumental in taking a kitchen that was feeding maybe 30 meals a day, and in the height of the blizzard was feeding as many as 1,500. We were keeping people alive. We were shoring up tents that were being blown down. We were putting out fires of tents that had been blown down, that the stoves had caught on, in pure survival mode. And through luck or grace or whatever you'd like to think, through that severe weather condition, no one died. And I don't say that lightly. No one died. That is an incredible feat unto itself. And if you were there in Newport in December and you saw how bad it was, they were on the radio, people walking out of camp, walking out onto the frozen river, people walking outside without shoes or without coats, and we're forming search parties to go and find them. I'm still kind of blown away from it. But with both the victory of the easement being denied and the weather that came in, the Standing Rock Tribal Council, who had formally invited us to come, we didn't just take it upon ourselves to go on up there and be white saviors. We were specifically invited by the Tribal Council. They said, okay, it's time, you're overloading the resources that are available in camp. Thank you for coming, it's time to go home. So that's what we did. Many of us felt a strong connection and returned on our own later in December. And as everyone knows, come January 20th, when we had a new administration, one of the first things that was done was an executive order was signed that circumvented the law of the land and made unnecessary the environmental impact study and turned on okay for the pipeline. In addition to that, North Dakota got a new governor who announced evictions, that they were going to evict the camps that were on treaty lands. So next thing we knew, we were contacted by the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe, who were just south of Standing Rock and are co-litigants in all the court cases against Dakota Access Pipeline. So in the beginning of February, I and others returned to South Dakota at this point to coordinate with Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe. To our great surprise, they asked us to build another camp that would be eviction proof. In the face of the federal government, with the authorization of the Standing Rock Tribe to clear out the Etchetti-Sakowin, Rosebud, and Sacred Stone camps, Cheyenne River asked us to build a new camp that was eviction proof. And so I meet my counterpart, and I will point out that one of the things that we found when we came together, Native Americans have the highest participation in military service of any ethnic group in the United States. Any Americans. No one serves our countries more than indigenous peoples. No one. And on the Cheyenne River Tribe, it's 46%. Every other person is a veteran. Every other person. So when we got there and we interfaced, we found community. We found community. The color of our skin didn't matter, our background didn't matter. We had those shared experiences, and especially with the combat veterans. So I meet this guy, Leon Red Dog is his name. He's a Vietnam veteran, and he walks me onto this frozen horse pasture between Cannonball and the Rosebud camp. And he says, we're going to build a camp here. I'm like, okay, old man. You say so. So we built a camp there. We did all of our homework. We interfaced extremely well with our tribal partners. It made sure that the land ownership was not in question. set up all the sanitation, the food, the shelters, everything else. And as all of the other camps fell, as much as the authorities wanted to clear us out, they could not. And so thus was established the Four Bands Great Sioux Nation Prayer Camp, which, if I'm honest, it's still standing today. We're in the process of taking it down because the need for it has passed. But it stood throughout all of the evictions, throughout the winter, throughout everything that the Standing Rock Council wanted to do to kick us out, that anyone else wanted to do, the authorities could not dislodge us. That was a great experience, and we were only able to do that because as a group after the December mission, we decided as a good military operation, we needed to do an after-action report. We needed to study what our plan was, exactly what happened in that December movement, what went right, what went wrong, analyze it so that we could do it better if the time comes again. And we had to do it a lot quicker. We were thinking long-term Keystone, which is what we're still working to oppose on Cheyenne River today, which is going to come next year unless we can kill it in court before it happens. But we had to jumpstart that and do it a lot quicker. And we had a pretty good success rate. And the real beauty of it is working side by side with our tribal allies and each other. We found the selfish reason for why we would go to the Dakotas in the winter to do this work on our own dime, taking our own time and making our own sacrifice. And that simply is that being of service to others heals PTSD. It is absolutely the best treatment that any of us can do to deal with it. We get out of ourselves, we get back into a community of support. You do good work that you can see, do work with your own hands, you can see the results of it. You do it together because we have to do this, all of this together.
Yeah.
Now, I said earlier that we're both an example of what isn't climate mobilization and what is climate mobilization. Now, let me explain that. It was not climate mobilization because that was the care about what's happening on the environment. It was just simply not the reason so many thousands of us felt the call to go. Now, it could have been one of the ancillary things, but it was the water cannons, it was the rubber bullets, it was the dogs, it was all of that stuff. That was the paramount thing. And it wasn't just, it's this many, lefty veterans are in the country. It wasn't that. We had, of course, we had liberal veterans, but we also had Trump voters who don't believe in climate change, but they understand that clean air and clean water should be a right. And they came and they worked hand in hand with your most hardcore Bernie supporters. These things happen. You see, you got north-south head shakes in the crowd for people who were there. They've seen it. This was an opportunity to build coalition across the political spectrum, ethnic backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds, of people to come together to work for a common goal. Okay, so that's what I mean by both was and was not a good example of climate mobilization. It wasn't the main reason, but there are ways you can work that process and get that organization, once it stood up, to start doing those grassroots things to make a positive impact with climate mobilization. Now again, many of you haven't heard of us. We're an organization called Veterans Service Corps. We originally were part of the Post-Standing Rock Veteran Stand organization, and we've split off to do our own thing in our own direction. We really have not left the Great Sioux Nation since December. We've had representatives there, and I've been on the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe for the last 6 months. And I'm making a quick trip back to North Carolina to get the rest of my personal effects, and I'm going back out to Dakota for as long as it takes. Now, what have we been doing out there? Well, quite simply, as we went through and found that community with the veterans of the tribe and everyone else and all of those other things, We looked around and saw that a lot of the systemic issues that are affecting that undeveloped community of color, they were still going to be there whether the camps were evicted or not. And there were things that we could do to help our brothers and sisters. And so that's exactly what we set about doing. We set about doing community development stuff, working with trying to get green technology to come in, to increase the quality of life, to bring industry, to give people hope. You know, we're talking about, there's a town called Cherry Creek on the Cheyenne River Reservation. It's a town of about 600. The median annual income there is less than $700 a year. It has the highest youth suicide rate in the Western Hemisphere. In the Western Hemisphere. About this time last month, 2 kids in 1 week were successful, which caused the tribe to have meetings to figure out what can they do to address this. And as an organization, what we've done to help is with some other nonprofits that work in the area, we renovated and stocked a youth center in Cherry Creek, because there's no store there. There's not a vending machine there. There's nothing. No industry, no jobs. There's nothing for the people there to do. And it's 45 miles to the next town, down a very bad dirt road. Surrounded by hills, no cell phone service. There's nothing to do there. We helped the tribe set up a youth baseball league. And they're having practice tonight. You know, it's been going on for several weeks now. We get kids coming out. We see that as our proof of concept. You know, we're going in to honor our shared oath and to use the skills that the taxpayers have already invested in us as former members of the military to be of service to the communities across the country that need it. Now, right now, we're very small, so we're only working in one community, but, you know, we see this as the path forward. We're not trying to compete with Veterans for Peace. We don't have members. We're just volunteers. But we do see the need that we need to form coalitions to work together. Because as Ben Franklin said, we must all hang together, or most assuredly, we will hang separately. I'm just going to cut to the end here, as I don't want to take too much time. We've had a lot of accomplishments, including food pantries, kitchens, homeless shelters, battered women's shelters, youth shelters. How many hundreds of water protectors and veterans that we assisted, either financially, gas money, car repairs, or whatnot, to get out of Dakota when the evictions were coming. We've done a very lot with not very much. And there's an old saying in the infantry that we have done so much for so long with so little, we are not qualified to do anything with nothing. Now we're a small group of maybe 30 to 50 people who are working and spending their own dime and our own pensions to get out there to feed, fuel, and get the equipment and tools and materials needed to make an actual positive impact. If we can do that on our meager pensions, imagine what we could do with a bigger support network and actual resources. Thank you.
Questions for Chris? Don't have time for very much, Dan.
Question. I actually have a question for the lady in the middle. I'm sorry.
Kim.
Okay. First, I'm going to say, Chris, I've seen what you're doing out there. You and Ross and others contribute everything you got. Your vehicles, personal vehicles. You're helping to pay for 2 households of people out there working with your pension. So it's really honorable to see that. Now, the question I have for you, though, you mentioned Unilever, and that really struck me, because Unilever, I've been on stage with people from Unilever saying what a great, sustainable, green company they are. If you go to their website, it's the first thing it says.
This is why the next time you're on stage with them, please ask them why they're killing our children in our neighborhood.
I'd be glad to work with
Please.
you
Thank you.
to organize
We appreciate
against
it.
them.
Thank you very much.
Because
Thank
they're-
you. This is what we call greenwashing. This is
The worst
exactly
case.
what they do.
The worst
Yes.
case.
Yes,
It's the
absolutely.
worst example I've seen. I mean, I've seen them on stage many places.
Are
Every academic conference, there's somebody there from Unilever.
absolutely.
So anyway, let's talk.
Thank you so
after
very
this.
much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Greenwashing.
Yes.
One more hand that came up.
Oh, yeah, my name is Suzanne Gordon, and we talked, Chris and I, and some guys at Standing Rock. And when you were talking, Chris, about, you know, you went there for the pipeline, and now you're doing homelessness and this, that, and the other. It strikes me that what we really need in our work is a concept of integrated activism, you know, because there's, I mean, the VA, I worked on issues of saving veterans' healthcare, but it's all connected, you know, and we have to fight this issue is this one, and that means I have to give all my time for that, and that issue has to, you know, because what we need is really what you're doing, you know, where one thing leads to another, and we can fight for it all, right? And because and I just want to say that your positive stories, I think are really, really extraordinary, and where we should all be beginning in our work. Because, you know, we now know that the brain shuts down. I mean, you know what, people start, it turns out that people start a lecture with a joke for a reason, because laughter opens up the brain. I mean, you know, they've shown it on PET scans, right? And if you give somebody, if you begin with the positive, like what works. Because if sometimes, one of the things I worry about with
Suzanne,
the,
just in the interest of time, probably some other people.
oh, okay.
Because we've only got a couple of minutes.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I just would say that I think that as you think about talking to other folks, one of the things we talk about is you could spend 3 days just talking doom and gloom about how bad the environment is. I could show 80,000 pictures of seas dying, fish dying, but that doesn't do, and all it does is depress people. It's really about finding what connects us individually. Our politics is what connects us as individuals, and that should be what we use to move forward. I couldn't agree with you more.
And it's my firm opinion that when you start addressing when you start looking to provide opportunity and hope for undeveloped communities, all of those systemic issues, the suicide rates, the obesity, the diabetes, the domestic violence, drugs, all of that stuff, it's going to be taken care of. All of that stuff is going to fade away over time when you start addressing the core needs of the community.
Plus, veterans are healed when veterans work there.
I have to say, I left out two things on the mobilization, take a 30 seconds. They're committed to civil disobedience from the beginning. We're working to raise this issue and the need for emergency. And civil disobedience is one way of doing that. We're trying to pass a resolution. But they assume that we're going to have large-scale non-cooperation like a general strike if we're really going to change. And so from the beginning, that's included. So I apologize, I think everybody can stay and answer questions, but I want to respect your time, and I think that's 10:30, and I want to thank thank the speakers here, Chris and Kim, but also the other guys from Standing Rock would stand up and lead.
Seriously.